If you're fascinated by ancient mysteries, lost civilizations, unexplained artifacts, and the possibility that history may be far stranger than we've been taught, then you're in the right place. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to Eon Timeless History, turn on notifications, and join our growing community of history enthusiasts. And as you watch, tell us in the comments, do you believe ancient people witnessed advanced technology? Or are these stories simply myths and symbols passed down through generations? Let's begin. For thousands of years, humanity has looked toward the sky and wondered whether we are truly alone. Long before modern airplanes, rockets, and satellites, ancient cultures across the world recorded stories of beings descending from the heavens, traveling in extraordinary flying machines, and sharing knowledge that transformed civilizations. Could these accounts simply be myths? Or could they preserve distant memories of events that modern science has yet to fully explain? Across the globe, archaeologists have uncovered artifacts, carvings, monuments, and ancient texts that continue to spark debate. Some researchers see symbolic religious imagery. Others believe these discoveries may point toward forgotten technologies or encounters with visitors from beyond our world. One intriguing example comes from Central America. In regions once inhabited by ancient Mesoamerican cultures, unusual artifacts have been discovered that challenge straightforward interpretation. Among them are figures that appear to depict human-like individuals enclosed within turtle-shaped forms. Traditional interpretations connect these objects to mythology and creation stories. Turtles held powerful symbolic meaning throughout Mesoamerican cultures, often representing the earth, fertility, and cosmic rebirth. Yet some alternative researchers suggest a different possibility. They point out that certain examples appear surprisingly streamlined, with human figures positioned inside shell-like structures. To them, these objects seem less like ordinary animals and more like representations of unusual flying devices described through the artistic language available to ancient peoples. Of course, mainstream archaeology rejects such conclusions, emphasizing the symbolic nature of ancient artwork. Still, the question remains fascinating. If ancient people witnessed something beyond their understanding, how would they have described it? Would they compare it to familiar creatures from their world? Or would they create entirely new forms to represent the unknown? Questions like these become even more intriguing when we examine ancient legends from other parts of the world. One of the most famous stories involves Alexander the Great. According to historical records, Alexander's military campaigns stretched across vast territories, eventually reaching the borders of India in the 4th century BCE. Ancient sources describe growing unrest among his troops after years of warfare. Exhaustion, unfamiliar terrain, and fierce resistance contributed to declining morale. However, alternative historians point to later traditions and legends that tell a far stranger story. According to these accounts, unusual objects appeared in the sky during Alexander's eastern campaigns. These mysterious aerial phenomena allegedly caused panic among war elephants and soldiers, creating chaos within the army itself. Mainstream historians find no reliable evidence supporting such claims and attribute Alexander's retreat to well-documented military and political factors. Nevertheless, stories of mysterious objects in the sky continue to appear throughout history. From ancient chronicles to modern reports, witnesses have repeatedly described strange aerial craft capable of movements that seem impossible according to conventional aviation principles. Objects that accelerate instantly. Objects that change direction without slowing down. Objects that appear to ignore the limitations of gravity itself. Today, scientists continue studying reports of unidentified aerial phenomena. While no confirmed evidence of extraterrestrial technology has been presented, these observations have revived interest in questions once considered purely speculative. Could advanced civilizations someday discover ways to manipulate gravity? Modern physics still struggles to fully explain gravity at the deepest levels. Despite its familiarity, gravity remains one of the least understood fundamental forces in nature. Although such technology remains beyond our current capabilities, the possibility demonstrates how much remains unknown. And if future humans eventually master gravity itself, could ancient stories about impossible flying machines take on new significance? This question becomes especially compelling when we examine ancient India. Among the world's oldest literary traditions are the Sanskrit texts of India. Within these vast collections of epics, myths, and religious writings are references to extraordinary vehicles known as Vimanas. Descriptions of Vimanas vary dramatically. Some accounts portray them as celestial chariots used by gods. Others describe flying palaces capable of traversing great distances. Still others depict airborne vehicles participating in spectacular battles among divine beings. To most historians and Sanskrit scholars, these stories belong firmly within the realm of mythology and religious symbolism. Yet, alternative researchers argue that certain descriptions seem surprisingly detailed. They point to references involving navigation, aerial travel, and mechanical structures that appear unusual for ancient literature. Could these stories preserve memories of real technologies? Or are modern readers projecting contemporary ideas onto ancient myths? The debate continues. What cannot be denied is the profound influence these narratives had on Indian civilization. Across South Asia, magnificent temple complexes were constructed over many centuries. Their towering architecture reaches skyward in ways that continue to inspire awe today. Some researchers have suggested that elements of these structures may have been inspired by descriptions of celestial vehicles found within sacred texts. Whether symbolic or literal, the connection between heaven, flight, and divine power appears deeply embedded within ancient traditions. But India is not the only region where stories of aerial travel emerge. Ancient Ethiopian traditions preserved within the Kebra Nagast tell remarkable stories involving King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. Among these accounts are references to extraordinary journeys accomplished through seemingly miraculous means. Later legends expanded these narratives, introducing concepts such as flying carpets and aerial travel across vast distances. To modern readers, these stories sound like fantasy. Yet supporters of alternative historical theories argue that ancient cultures may have used symbolic language to describe technologies beyond their comprehension. Could a flying carpet have been a metaphor for some type of aerial platform? Or are such interpretations simply examples of reading modern concepts into ancient folklore? As with many historical mysteries, definitive answers remain elusive. Another source frequently cited in discussions of ancient aerial technology comes from the Bible. The Book of Ezekiel contains one of the most unusual visions in all religious literature. Ezekiel describes a dazzling encounter involving wheels within wheels, radiant beings, flashes of fire, and a structure descending from the heavens. For centuries, theologians interpreted these passages as symbolic spiritual experiences. However, during the 20th century, some engineers and researchers proposed a radically different interpretation. What if Ezekiel was attempting to describe an advanced vehicle using the limited vocabulary available to him? One of the most famous proponents of this idea was a former aerospace engineer who analyzed the biblical text from an engineering perspective. His conclusions generated intense controversy. Supporters argued that certain descriptions resembled mechanical systems. Critics responded that religious visions should not be interpreted as technical blueprints. Regardless of one's position, the debate highlights an important challenge. Ancient witnesses described extraordinary experiences through the language, beliefs, and cultural frameworks of their time. Understanding those descriptions requires careful interpretation. Perhaps nowhere is this challenge more visible than among the ancient Maya. Hidden within the dense jungles of southern Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, and neighboring regions are the remains of one of history's most sophisticated civilizations. The Maya achieved remarkable accomplishments in mathematics, astronomy, architecture, agriculture, and writing. Without iron tools, large draft animals, or many technologies associated with later civilizations, they constructed impressive cities and monumental structures across vast territories. Among the most celebrated of these cities is Palenque. For centuries, Palenque flourished as a major center of political power, artistic achievement, and religious activity. Its temples, palaces, and inscriptions continue to reveal new insights into Maya civilization. Yet one discovery has generated more controversy than almost any other. Mainstream scholars interpret the imagery as a complex representation of Maya cosmology. According to this interpretation, Pakal is depicted during his symbolic journey through the underworld, surrounded by sacred imagery connected to rebirth and the cosmic tree. However, alternative researchers see something entirely different. To them, Pakal appears seated inside a machine. They point to what seem like controls near his hands, a posture resembling that of a modern pilot, and structures beneath him that resemble mechanical components. As a result, the image became famous as the so-called Palenque astronaut. Professional archaeologists strongly disagree with this interpretation. They emphasize that every element of the carving can be understood within established Maya religious symbolism. Yet the image remains one of the most discussed artifacts in the world. Why? Because it illustrates how the same object can inspire radically different interpretations depending on the assumptions we bring to it. A combination of symbolism and observation that we have yet to fully understand. Beyond individual artifacts lies an even larger question. Why do so many ancient cultures share stories involving beings from the sky? From Mesopotamia to Egypt, from India to Mesoamerica, from Africa to Europe. Legends repeatedly describe gods descending from above, bringing knowledge, establishing civilizations, and influencing human destiny. Conventional historians argue that such similarities arise naturally because human beings everywhere look to the heavens for meaning and inspiration. Alternative researchers propose another possibility. What if these stories reflect a common source? What if ancient peoples around the world witnessed the same phenomena and interpreted them according to their own cultural traditions? At present, no conclusive evidence exists to prove such theories, yet the persistence of these stories continues to fuel curiosity. Perhaps the greatest mystery of all concerns humanity itself. How did our species achieve such extraordinary development? Modern science explains human evolution through a long process spanning hundreds of thousands of years. These often begin with questions that challenge accepted assumptions. As we continue exploring ancient mysteries, we must remain willing to examine evidence wherever it leads, whether it confirms conventional explanations or reveals something entirely unexpected. Perhaps the truth lies somewhere between mythology and reality. Perhaps ancient stories preserve symbolic wisdom rather than historical events. Or perhaps humanity's distant past contains secrets far stranger than we currently imagine. Whatever the answer may be, one thing is certain: the search continues. And every new discovery brings us one step closer to understanding who we are, where we came from, and whether we have ever truly been alone. If you enjoyed this journey into the mysteries of ancient civilizations, be sure to subscribe to Eon Timeless History and become part of our community. Now it's your turn. Do you believe ancient accounts of flying machines and sky beings were purely symbolic? Or could they contain fragments of forgotten history? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We read every comment and would love to hear your Eon Timeless History documentary exploring one of the greatest mysteries of the ancient world. Click that video and continue the journey with us. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep uncovering the mysteries of our timeless past.